Hi, hello, namaste. Welcome to Lata's Math Thoughts. In the previous video, we have seen what is forgetting, how it is happening, what are the theories behind forgetting. In contrast to that, we have to learn and understand what is memory, what are the various types of memories, and how to increase the memory power or the techniques to improve the memory. So in today's video, I'll be explaining in a brief how memory works upon the human brain. So firstly, let us look into the definition of memory. What is memory? Memory is defined by psychologists as the capacity to record, retain and retrieve information. So it is the learnt material being recorded or registered in the brain, retained or stored in the brain, and retrieved to reproduce when necessary. This process is called memory. We are able to learn something, we are able to imbibe the learned material into the brain, we are able to store it, and then we can use it when needed, retrieving it as per the need. This process is called memory. What are the different types of memories? Human memory can be classified into three types: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Sensory memory is the very shortest form of memory. It is something like second or less than a second memory. Iconic memory, it is the visual memory, what we see and we absorb or we learn the information. For example, a car passes by, a green color car passes by us. So that fraction of second, the color what registers into the mind by seeing, it is called iconic memory. Echoic memory, a sound or a music or a lyric when you hear, immediately you will get the connected with that memory of that particular song or the dialogue, etc. So through hearing, the immediate memory which comes into your mind, which is registered into the brain by hearing, is called echoic memory. And the second is called short-term memory or working memory we call. Working memory is also a short form of memory. Retention time is not for long, maximum uh, until 2 minutes we have. So here the memory will be working upon the activity. Whatever we are doing, we focus on that and it will be working around. For example, ordering a food, seeing a menu card. We remember for that particular time, but it is not a long-term memory that what we have ordered on each dime. So this working memory which you have in the brain for a short span of time, which will be rehearsed and it is memorized. It is called as short-term memory. Finally, the long-term memory. The sensory memory or the short-term memory, the retention time is very less. But once if they are rehearsed, reinforced, and they are transferred into the long-term memory with repeated efforts of reinforcement, the memory is everlasting, long-lasting memory. That is called as long-term memory. In this long-term memory, we have the different types once again. That is explicit memory and implicit memory. In explicit memory, we call it mainly, it is conscious memory. The memory which we try to keep with us or try to retain by deliberate efforts or conscious efforts. That means, for example, a mathematical problem is there or mathematical operations. We learn somewhere in the primary classes, but continuous practice of the mathematical operations are always there in the mind. So though you grow up to any stage of life, you never forget the basic operations in the mathematics. That means continuous practice or rehearsal or the deliberate efforts have made them to be into the long-term memory. So in this explicit memory, declarative memory, this is like facts, events, what we call, all these come under declarative. That means scientific definitions or some sort of events like family events or the social events, your dates of your birthdays or wedding anniversaries or important events of the family, or in your work professional achievements, whatever it is, that which are related to facts and dates, events come under declarative memory. In that, once again, we classify into episodic and semantic. Episodic memory is mainly with the events. So we have been to a tour. Maybe when you think of that, you will be connecting with the places, with what you have visited, or the people whom you met, or along with you whom you have visited that place. So these are all like different episodes or different bits, chunks we put together to reconstruct, and that is called as episodic memory. Whereas semantic memory is mainly with the facts and concepts. When you are learning some physics or math or science, or maybe some other important information which you are upgrading into the brain, so that is all related with the content, and you have different mind mapping or graphic organizers or mnemonics. All these you use to store in the brain. That is called as semantic memory. And next, coming to the implicit memory. Implicit memory is something that we are not deliberately putting efforts, but unconsciously, that is with the practice or with the skills what we acquire, that is already registered into the brain. So it is simply called as procedural memory. For example, we learn bicycle when we are young. But even now, when you ride a bicycle after growing into adults also, you don't need to rehearsal it again, because that has been, the skill has been registered in the brain. So such memories are called as procedure memories. So all the tasks, more or less what you learn, the skills, like playing a piano or riding a bike, or your cutlery skills or culinary skills. So these things all come under the procedure memory. So long-term memory, the memory which is stored in the long-term memory, is the most powerful memory. That happens with the continuous efforts and reinforcement only. Then we have the sensory memory, as I told. It is called iconic memory and the echoic memory. So the iconic comes from the visual system, and echoic comes from the auditory system. Then we have the short-term memory. In this, the encoding takes place into the memory system through all the senses, and the capacity is severely limited, very less time. And rehearsal, this is very important for memory to become stronger. Maintenance, how frequently we recall and use the knowledge, or how elaborative, that means what type of research you do on the topic or on the content or on the learnt material. So that becomes an elaborative reading, so it has a memory impact is high. And the organizational strategies, how you arrange logically and how you retrieve it often. Then comes into the long-term memory. In long-term memory, we have the retrieval is more from the long-term memory, and the flashbulb memories. That means maybe your college days or college friends or the past events. You may not have clear picture, but you don't forget. You have the fade memory. You remember your final favor party. You may not remember who exactly sat beside you, but you can remember who were all the friends who joined you on that gathering. Reconstructive memory. This is something direct reproduction is not possible, but building up the memory with chunks of information and reconstruction is possible, so that retrieval is there. So memory in a nutshell, we can tell it is a sensory input, and from the sensory information it goes into the short-term memory, and the continuous rehearsals from the short-term memory, you with the deliberate efforts or the unconscious skills what we have learned, the acquired skills will be transformed into long-term memory, and once they are stored in the long-term memory, the span is large and we can retrieve at the need. It is simple, like you learn from a teacher, you revise it and you keep in the brain, and you reproduce it in the examination. So learning from a teacher either by listening or seeing or hearing is called as sensory memory. So you reading and revising, once again going back, coming forward, so revising the books is called short-term memory to retain. Then once you retain, you retrieving the information and putting up in the examination or presenting in a event is called as long-term memory. So memory in simple steps, we can have three steps: recording or encoding, retaining or storage, retrieval. So as I told, recording, you have to register the information into the brain. It will happen through all the sense organs. You get the information and you will allow the brain to absorb it. That is called encoding the information. Then retaining. So the learnt material is retained. Whatever the knowledge or the skill you have acquired, you will store by continuous rehearsal and practice. Retrieval. Once it is stored in the brain, whenever the need comes, you bring it out your memory and you use the learned material for your usage. This is called retrieval. So these are the basic three steps of memory process. Thank you.